What's good, everyone? OJ here. Welcome to my top 10 Nintendo Switch games of 2021. Before we get into anything, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and click that notification bell to get Nintendo Switch and RPG news videos daily. Now, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get right into my top 10. Starting out at number 10, Mario Party Superstars. And this is something that I thought I would probably never say, but yes, a Mario Party game in my top 10 games. And it's with good reason, because this is actually the highest rated Mario Party game of all time. And this Mario Party game takes what makes all the other Mario Party games great, all the good ones, and puts it all together. And on top of that, for the first time ever, at launch, we have extremely solid, stable, and good online play for a Mario Party game. Super Mario Party was the first one to kind of implement it, but it wasn't so good at launch. They did fix it up later where they added the boards and added better ways to play the mini games and more mini games, but that was afterwards. This one actually has everything in stable with Mario Party Superstars, everything stable right there at launch with invites and everything. It's actually really good. Heck, even if you drop out, you can hop right back into it through the Nintendo Switch Online. So I was blown away by the functionality of the online and then also the games. It takes some of the best mini games from the series history and puts them all into one game in a very entertaining package that's easy to play and a ton of fun. I don't think I've had as much fun playing a Mario Party game since like the old school days of the N64 and the GameCube. So Mario Party Superstars definitely earns its 10th spot on my list. Number 9, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. Now this one's tough because you have the whole remasters and remakes type of thing, but I think that with Bowser's Fury and also with the addition of online play for Super Mario 3D World, I think that's good enough to kind of make it a new experience. But let's kind of focus in on Bowser's Fury because I think that's where this game really excels and maybe even gives us a glimpse into what Nintendo's going to do for the next big 3D Mario game. Because I love the open-endedness and I love the seamlessness of the game. I think that's where Bowser's Fury really excels. It has its main little hook and gimmick with Bowser coming out and destroying everything, and you have to kind of tame that. But I love how the game design is. I love how the level design is, where you just hop right into levels and it just pops up saying, hey, this is the star, this is what you need to do. You get it, and then you be about your way. It's not hopping into a painting or hopping into a world, then flying back out, then going, hey, you got the star, or you got the moon, or you got this, or you got that. It's really seamless and it gets you right into the action and into the flow, and it makes sense for how short the experience is, but at the same time you can kind of see the potential of where they're going to go with it. And of course the online play in the 3D world, that really helps, because that was a big controversy when the game first came out that it didn't have it on the Wii U. So they cleaned up the package, they made it better, and they gave us, like I said, a sneak peek or a glimpse into maybe what they're going to do with the next Mario game. And I think that's absolutely the right way to go about it. But even on its own, even though Bowser's Fury is not that long of an experience, it's still one of the best platforming experiences that I've played. So I had to give it number 9 on my list. Number 8, Persona 5 Strikers. Now this game was very interesting because the whole talk about this game was whether it's a Muso or Warriors game or is it an actual action RPG, and for some reason people didn't want to watch the gameplay in Japan and kind of see how the game is, because you can play it and it's definitely more of an action RPG with some Muso elements. And I think that's what makes Persona 5 Strikers kind of a refreshing thing, because you're expecting the Muso game because of who's developing it, right? You have the Koei Tecmo and you have like the team that usually does those games, and there is various elements from those Muso games in there, like the battle system and kind of how they do certain things. However, there's individual encounters. It's not just all about fighting a bunch of enemies all the time. You have platforming, you have some stealth parts, you have a bunch of other things that kind of play into this that make it a very dynamic game, and not like a Hyrule Warriors or like a Dynasty Warriors or a Samurai Warriors or some of those type of games, but an actual individual action RPG with some elements from those. So Persona 5 Strikers kind of hit all of the right keys, and on top of that, it's a fantastic game. I mean, there's plenty of different personas to collect, there's plenty of different levels, there's tons of combos, there's challenge that's in there as well. Persona 5 Strikers also tells a great canon story when it comes to the sequel or the continuation of the Persona 5 world. So I actually really like Persona 5 Strikers. I think the controls are great. I think the gameplay is great. I think the content is all there packed in. It is a full experience on the Nintendo Switch that you can play anywhere that you want. So I had to give Persona 5 Strikers number 8 on my list. Number 7, Neo, The World Ends With You. The long-awaited sequel to the original The World Ends With You is finally here. It finally came out in 2021, although Square Enix might have forgot that it was coming out in 2021. I did not forget it on my list here because Neo, The World Ends With You does a lot of great things. The battle system is completely revamped from the first game because the first game was a DS title where you used 2 screens and a stylus and the D-pad, and it was very awkward to play it, especially with someone with big hands. So it was still fun, but definitely a bit awkward. The Switch release didn't do much to fix things when it comes down to it, and I think that it actually might have made things worse, especially when you play it docked. So finally getting to this third game, you can say, second game in the series, but third game in terms of re-releases and stuff like that. There was a mobile version. They finally nailed the combat with this one because they turned it into an action-heavy, combo-based game where you have 3 different characters and you can control all of them how you see fit. And that's what I love about Neo, The World Ends With You. It doesn't play around with crazy gimmicks or anything like that, but it still has a unique battle system that's very fun, and the story is really cool and involved. It involves fashion with the whole pin system. They revamped that as well for different powers, the evolutions of those powers, what you get, your equipment, how the story just flows is absolutely fantastic. I think that they did a great job with Neo, The World Ends With You, and it's definitely one of the best RPGs that I've played in recent memory and something that you guys should definitely check out, and that's why it's number 7 on my list. Number 6, Monster Hunter Stories 2. This game surprised me just a little bit because while I did like the Nintendo 3DS game, I felt that this one was going to be good. I didn't know that I was going to like this game as much as I ended up liking it. It's like a Pokemon game, but Monster Hunter, and it's a very well executed game, be it that. They have a variety of different monsters, they have a bunch of different skills that you can learn, they have online multiplayer in there with co-op and also PvP as well. This is a full package game here, and it's almost like a rock, paper, scissors / Pokemon type of thing all put together, but the battle system really works out well. The graphics are really good as well too. I mean, they're doing a great job with that RE engine on the Nintendo Switch, and I think that if they continue to evolve this franchise, it's going to get to the point to where it becomes super big. I think it'll end up becoming a game that people really start saying, okay, Monster Hunter Stories is super good, because I think that the story in this game, it's called Monster Hunter Stories, and I think the gameplay really matches perfectly. As you go through and you fight different monsters and as you meet different characters, it feels like it all intertwines, and it has a phenomenal progression. Great open-ended world where you can go about and kind of collect and do different things, tons of side quests, tons of gameplay, lots of end game. There is a full packed adventure in here with Monster Hunter Stories 2. So that's the reason why it got up to number 6 on my list. Number 5, Bravely Default 2. This is a game that I've always loved. The franchise, more like it, that I've always loved back when it first came out on the Nintendo 3DS, and then also 2 games on there, and then it eventually came out on the Nintendo Switch finally in 2021, and it's phenomenal. They improved so many things from the original Bravely Default and Bravely Second End Layer. I love the different classes in the game. In terms of what they've added, really added multiple layers of depth. The story is classic Bravely Default 1, just kind of done on the Nintendo Switch, but the biggest thing with this game to me is the content. The content is all there and fleshed out. The super bosses, the sub bosses, all of that is so good, and it gives you a lot of variety within the gameplay. I think that with an RPG, you want to make sure that you have so many different ways that you can tackle obstacles, that you can tackle battles, that someone is going to say, oh, well, I beat this boss, this big boss this way. Oh, well, I beat this boss this way. Oh, well, I did it this way. That is the mark of a fantastic RPG, when there's so many different variety of options, and it's not just gimmicky to where you have to do one type of thing, but you have multiple different strategies to fight, and it gives you that variety that you're looking for, so you don't have to find the right way to beat a boss. And I think that that's what Bravely Default 2 does extremely well, is that there's so many variety of combinations of different classes that you can mix and match, and different things that you can get. It really creates a game that's super fun to play, and continuing to explore the different options that you do have. So that's what I love about Bravely Default. Once again, the story is fantastic, the gameplay is really good, I love the art style. They did a great job for the type of game that it is, the budget that they do have. So Bravely Default 2 makes it to number 5 on my list. Number 4, The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD. Now, this is something, once again, you have a remake, remaster, whatever the case is on here, and it's tough to sometimes put these on here, just like with Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. But with Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, it's such an upgrade over what they did. It almost feels like a new game to me. It's because of the button controls. I was not a fan of the Wii motion controls in this game. Yes, they did work for what they were trying to do with the Wii Motion Plus. Yes, it was very cool. You can slash and you can do all that, but I just wasn't a fan of the motion controls of it, and therefore it made me not like the game that much. I mean, I did like what they were doing in the game and what they were trying. I liked the story and lots of other things with Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, but I wasn't loving the gameplay. But with Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD, they've improved so many things. They made it 60 frames per second. They made it to where you can use button controls. They added a ton of quality of life features. They added skip type of stuff with the dialogue. I mean, they added the whole fees not so annoying and always bugging you all the time. There's so many things that makes this game almost feel different to me. I felt like I was playing a different game. It's so much better with what they've done. I've had to include The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD into this because it's just so much of an improvement over what they had before. So it has to go on number 4 on my list. Number 3, Monster Hunter Rise. This game surprised me a lot. I knew it was going to be great because they were really touting this as the next big Monster Hunter, but what they did on the Nintendo Switch with the RE engine was a miracle. They really tried, and this is what I love to see from third-party developers. Capcom did a phenomenal job with this game. I mean, Monster Hunter Rise is loaded, packed, content. You want to talk about bang for your buck? Monster Hunter Rise is definitely there. You have a seamless, fantastic multiplayer that's built in. You have tons of weapons, you have a lot of armor, tons of monsters to hunt, huge environments to go through, cool ways to traverse them through the air and also on the ground. Monster Hunter Rise is that type of game that all third-party games should look to and say, okay, we can make a game that looks as good as that on the Nintendo Switch, that runs like it does, that does what it does with the online and with the gameplay. Monster Hunter Rise is just phenomenal. There's so many aspects to the game. It's dynamic. It's continuing to evolve. I love what Capcom did, and Monster Hunter has never been a franchise that I'll sit there and sink 50 plus hours into or 60, 70 hours into. But this year, Monster Hunter Rise was one of those games that I actually sunk that amount of time into. And I've never done that for a Monster Hunter game before. I always put around maybe 20 or so hours before I quit with them. But Monster Hunter Rise kept me playing and kept me playing and kept me playing. And I loved what they did with the online. It was just integrated in such a great way to where it was easy and fun to play with friends. And it worked extremely well too. So I have to give Monster Hunter Rise number 3 on my list. Number 2, Metroid Dread. So Metroid Dread makes it to number 2, and what else can I say about this game? Samus is back with a brand new adventure. Not a remake, not a remaster, not a re-release, not anything like that, but a brand new game that pushes the series forward. First time in 20 years. Heck yes, this is that game. Metroid Dread not only is my favorite 2D Metroid game of all time, it might be my favorite Metroid game of all time when it's all said and done, because Metroid Dread does so many things right. The controls are silky smooth, the graphics are fantastic, the level design and gameplay are incredible, the theme of the game with the Emmys and the dread and the fear that you have to run from them or even getting away from them is just incredible. The tense atmosphere is great as well, and the story surprised me so much, and Metroid Dread has one of the most incredible endings that I've ever seen. They outdid themselves with that ending, and I was blown away by playing it. And I enjoyed every second of the game. Even when I couldn't figure out what to do or where to go next, I still enjoyed opening up my map, looking at the different zones, potentially seeing where, okay, I haven't explored that area, let me go there, because the map in this game is better than any other map in any other Metroid game by far. We're just used to like the whole blue and red areas that we've been to with little dots to say where there's different stuff. This map is in depth and ready to go with different zones and colors and where you can go and zooming in and out and all of that. So it was just a joy to play. From start to finish, it was a joy to play to see Samus's next adventure, and it gives me so much hope that the 2D Metroid games can continue in today's day. Some people felt that that couldn't happen, but no, it is happening, and Metroid Dread is that game. It's that good, and I implore all of you guys to check out Metroid Dread. It really is an incredible game, and it definitely deserves the #2 spot on my list. Number 1, Shin Megami Tensei 5. To me, it was pretty much a 2-horse race with Metroid Dread and SMT5 for my top Nintendo Switch game and game of the year. And to me, Shin Megami Tensei 5 is everything that I wanted it to be, and even then some. Let's just start out. Obviously, you have a very different style of game. It's open-ended at this point, so that already catches your eye with SMT5. They're using Unreal Engine 4, obviously the best looking SMT game ever made as well, coming off from the 3DS, the PS2, stuff like that, systems before, right, DS and all of that. So right from the beginning, the graphics are just striking in the game. But let's talk about the important thing, the gameplay. This is where SMT5 rises above. There are so many cool little tweaks and options and things that they did with the demon fusion in this game, with the Makatsui meter, basically like the super meter that you have in there, the skills that you can get, your potentials, upgrading them. This game gives you so much variety and so many different ways to tackle the bosses and tackle different things. The difficulty packed into there with the amount of content in there. I put 180 hours into SMT5 playing various different types of ways and modes. Now, I played it on the hard difficulty, a challenging experience, but I personally feel that playing these type of games with that challenging experience to where you actually have to use the mechanics of the game. You have to make sure that you say, okay, since this boss is going to be, really hard, it's going to kick my butt if I don't do what I need to do. I have to prepare. I have to get ready. So I love that about SMT. It actually makes the game better to me, and it made it even better by me having to strategize and think, what's my next move? How am I going to upgrade this? Okay, I'm going to level up a bit more so I can do this. Oh, I need this type of demon that can do these type of skills to get past this type of thing. Now, I know that some people have stated that the story is not necessarily that great in SMT5, but as someone who completed everything and also got the alternate or secret ending in the game, and you see how everything wraps up, it's actually really incredible. The story's really good. Heck, there's even story segments with main characters that you wouldn't see if you didn't do all of these side quests. If you didn't do everything, there are main options, there are main character story points and plots that you would have missed. And I saw all of that and how it wrapped up with everything. And if you combine that with the difficulty, the combat, the Makatsui skills, just being able to get different things, infusing the essences, everything in this game all came together to be one of the best RPG experiences ever. It's definitely a top 5 game of all time for me. One of my favorite RPGs of all time. And honestly, I haven't had this much fun playing an RPG since like Chrono Trigger. Like in terms of just pure gameplay by itself, I haven't had this much fun since Chrono Trigger. Shin Megami Tensei 5 is that game. When it comes to RPGs, it is that game. I was blown away. The fact that I put 190 hours into this game, according to my Nintendo stats, that Nintendo emailed me, 190 hours into this game, and I guess that's all my save files. I know my regular save file says about 150 hours or so, whatever the case is, right? But the fact that I put that much time into this game and it came out at the end of the year just goes to show you how much I loved it, and that's why it's number 1 on my list. So, what were your top 10 games for the Nintendo Switch of 2021, or what were your top games just overall? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and we will see you for the next video. Peace.